Welcome to some lab instructions for your very first lab. Where do you find the information you need to know what problems to do in lab, and in fact which lab to do and when the due date is? It's all in your course syllabus. And if you see here, this is from the course syllabus page, you go to the Lab Assignments tab, and then you'll see exactly what the page numbers are that are assigned, the problem numbers, and the due date. Today we're looking at Lab 1 and these activities here that are due on August 31st. I have provided you with a copy of the lab if you don't have it. It's not the same lab as what would be in the lab manual because this is a more recent version of the lab. As I explained at the beginning of this instruction in the written text, these page numbers are not going to correspond to the page numbers in the activity, but the activities are the same and the questions are the same. So what are you going to need? You're going to need a meter stick or maybe a measuring tape if you have one of those around the house. You're definitely going to need some sort of ruler that has centimeter divisions like this. This one also happens to have inches. So the second page gets you familiar with basic metric system units and also a little trick to convert between different kinds of metric units. And I went through this pretty extensively in video 1B.3. So if you haven't looked at that video, I really suggest you look at that before you try this lab. The next page, again, page 3 in the traditional lab manual that you would get from the bookstore. So the first activity is listed as 24.1. Again, this is activity 1 in the old lab manual. And what you're supposed to do is use a metric measuring tape or meter stick to measure your height in centimeters. Now in the classroom you would do this with the assistance of another student and you would use a meter stick. I'm going to let you cheat on this one if you don't have a way to measure your height with something like this, and I'm going to let you just convert your height, if you happen to know it in feet and inches, into metrics. So for example, I am 5 foot 4 inches and there are 12 inches in a foot. So 5 feet times 12 means 60 inches, and I'm going to add another 4, so I am 64 inches tall. And then I'm going to convert that to centimeters. Again, something I showed in that video. And then you're going to use this small ruler to measure things such as the length of this page and the length of your shoe in millimeters. And remember, millimeters are the smallest gradations on this ruler. Centimeters are the ones that are actually numbered. All right, and notice that I did not assign questions 4 or 5 on this page. So you want to pay attention to what number questions I assigned, because I rarely assign all problems. The next page, activity 2, I ask you to do number 1, and again, this staircase or ladder system is really the way to do it. I did not assign question 2. Below we have English metric conversions. I also went over this on that video, but notice it says on the backside cover of the manual you'll find conversion factors, and that is not true. So you're going to have to find these somewhere. You can go on the internet. You can also go to your astronomy textbook, which I'm showing you here, and if you look at the table of contents, there's all of these different chapters, and if you go down to the bottom chapter 30, afterwards there are a bunch of appendices, and appendice D has units used in science, and it gives you some conversion factors that you can use. So that's one place you can go. There are many places on the web that you could go as well. The next page asks you to do some conversions between centigrade and Fahrenheit temperature scales. Now it gives you the equations here in this paragraph. Let's go ahead and try one. This first one says on a cold day it was 8 degrees Fahrenheit, and they want to know what this value is in centigrade. So since it's centigrade that we want to try to find, we're going to use the equation that has centigrade on one side. Question 2 is asking you about Fahrenheit, in which case you'd use the equation that has Fahrenheit on one side. So let's use this centigrade one. Centigrade equals Fahrenheit minus 32 divided by 1.8. So we have 8 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're going to plug that into the F. 8 minus 32 is negative 24. and it's divided by 1.8, which turns out to be negative 13. So for question A, it was 8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is equivalent to negative 13 centigrade. Then you're going to skip a couple activities and go to activity 7. And here you're going to make a hypothesis, and it says here, number 1, that relates a person's height to his or her shoe length. So your hypothesis might be that there's a relationship between shoe length and height. And you're going to then collect data. And again, we normally would do this in the classroom, but we're going to be doing this in the lab discussion, where you're also going to put your own results. And remember, everybody did this in question 1 and 3 of the very first activity. And so you're going to fill up this chart with different students, student 1, student 2, you don't have to put their name, with their shoe length to the nearest millimeter and their height to the nearest hundredth of a meter. And I have already gone and put my information in there so you can use me as a data point. Now this particular version of the lab asks you to collect 20 data points. I'm only asking you to collect 15. The next page asks you some information that you're going to just follow along, and you're going to plot these on this chart. Once you've done that plot and you fit it to a best straight line, it asks you to ask several other people their height and shoe length and see if those data points fit to the line you made. Now, again, I'm willing to make this easier on you. You can go back to the discussion, the lab discussion, and choose 3 people who were not in your original data set that you collected and plot them on the graph using some sort of different symbol or a different color, and then answer the question. See if they fell along the line that you predicted. Finally, each lab ends with a lab report, and so I've circled that to sort of emphasize where those words are for each lab. Again, I do not assign all the problems, especially if we've skipped things in the lab. Here I've only assigned these 4 problems. All right, how do you get this to me? Well, here we are on our week 1 Canvas site, and down here it says submit lab number 1 here. So you're going to scan the pages that you worked on and upload them into Canvas right here. Notice that the class discussion for lab is here, and normally that's just going to be for you to help other students or ask questions that other students might be able to help you with. It's just a place to kind of have a community working on lab together. But in this case, you're also going to put in that data, your height and your shoe length, so people can plot it. Remember, if you have questions, I have office hours and live chat. This is the tab under the orientation model that shows you the office hours and the live chat hours. All right, good luck and welcome to your first lab.